Hello and welcome to Men in Progress, the podcast of the United Methodist Men of Trietsch here in Flower Mound, Texas. This is part of the Life Plus God podcast series from Trietsch Memorial United Methodist Church. We really appreciate you listening to our November podcast. This is episode 23 of Men in Progress. I'm your host, Dave Casey, and in this episode, just in time for Thanksgiving, we're discussing something I think we all wrestle with, and that's how to be truly thankful for what we have. Let's be honest, we live in a competitive world and in a capitalist nation surrounded by advertising and marketing. Those things aren't bad in and of themselves, but in a lot of times they can drive us to focus on what we don't have rather than what we do. Joining me to discuss the idea of thankfulness are three of my brothers from Trietsch, Buddy Bonner, Christian Sweeney, and Kevin Cummings. Guys, welcome to Men in Progress.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Good to see you guys.
Glad to be here.
So first of all, happy belated Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had a great holiday with your families. And what did Thanksgiving look like at your house this year?
Well, my in-laws are quite close. They live about 5 minutes away, so I get to see them every week. But
that could be comfortably or uncomfortably close.
Well, right now it's fantastic.
Oh,
I have three children under the age of 6.
Oh, wow.
A 6, 3, and a 5-month-old now. And so having grandparents close by makes life a lot easier. So Thanksgiving was just the same. Had them over. Mother-in-law is making ham. Father-in-law is making turkey. I'm making deviled eggs, which is my favorite dish. We just do the classic, eat a lot of food and watch the Dallas Cowboys play football.
Perfect. Kevin, how about you guys?
Well, we do Thanksgiving in Austin, Texas. My brother's a builder and has one of those mansions out there. But the fun thing is I was one of 7 kids, and so we're all married, have kids, and so there's 35, 40, 45 people sometimes.
Whoa.
And it's
serious.
become a tradition that my brother says, okay, we're going to say the prayer in just like 2 minutes and then sit down to eat. Hey, Kevin, would you carve the 7 turkeys real quick? But what was interesting this year is my nephew and my 2 sons kind of bumped me out of the way, and they took over the tradition of carving all the turkeys. It was really great.
That's awesome. Buddy, how about the Bonners?
Yeah, so we have 5 children between us, and so we've got a week-long list of activities. Going to start the week going out to Tuscaloosa and picking up Natalie, number 4 on the list, drive her home for the holiday, and then we'll take a quick trip to Arkansas to see child number 2, Charlize, and then towards the end of that week, we'll all get together and have a meal at the house. Don't know what that's going to look like, but that's what we'll do.
So this will be the tradition for the next few years, it sounds like.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Well, that's kind of my next question. Is there something that you guys have that's a singular thing that you make sure you do every year? So, Christian, is there something that you just can't miss doing at Thanksgiving?
I think the big thing my family's always done, either growing up or moving down to Texas and not being close to my in-laws, is we've always just made sure to get together. There's not a specific activity. It's get together, have one really good meal where everyone sits down, and we all just enjoy the talk for at least an hour or two, and then we move on to separate activities. So growing up, I was also one of 7 kids, so it was pretty chaotic around Thanksgiving. Everyone would eat and scatter. Right now, just it's kind of the same.
With 7, you're just lucky you got something to eat.
Yeah, you got to eat fast, and you eat the most.
Buddy, how about you guys? Is there something you just don't miss at Thanksgiving?
Well, we always get together for a big meal. It's, traditional, but I like to cook something different. One year we did gumbo. That was awesome.
That's good.
And we try to pick something different to do, not a traditional meal. So that's kind of what we do.
Wow. How about the Cummings house?
Well, the Wednesday before, everybody's really concerned about having a huge another meal of gravy and meat and 10, 15 different sides and desserts. So I do a shrimp bowl for 35, 40 people. And every year it's become more and more like, nope, you're doing this again next year.
Yeah. Hey, that would be popular. Oh, boy, that'd be popular. Now I'm hungry. Gosh. Shouldn't have done this. Oh. Well, clearly being thankful is the top of our mind. Every November, I think, is a time when we kind of focus on that. You see that with charities. You see that with advertising, everything else. Do you find it's hard to be consistently thankful every day during the year? So, Buddy, how about you?
Yeah, Dave, absolutely it is. We're conditioned by our human nature and all the input we have around from society to accept what's going on now as normal and the status quo. And so I think that sometimes compels us to just accept that without regard to consideration how thankful we should be.
Yeah.
Because it's around us all the time. And so I think it is difficult to focus in and be thankful on all the things that we're given.
It's kind of the land of plenty problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Kevin, how about that?
I kind of see it slightly different because I am thankful every single day. And I am a very positive person, and I am very up, and those of you who know me know that to be true. But it's kind of one of those things that if you're always in that mode to be thankful, it just spreads to everybody around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, Christian, I'll ask you this. This is why, and Buddy kind of alluded to this. We're kind of live in the land of plenty here, and why do you think it is that we as human beings we find it hard to be thankful when we have so much?
I think something we default to is when we're living anywhere, we start to compare ourselves to what's around us. And so that's the sin of pride. Do I have as much as someone else? Is my life as good as others?
Yeah, keeping up with the Bonners.
And, exactly. Yeah, with the Bonners, leading the way. And so when you're always
not difficult, I'll assure you.
So when you live your life comparing yourself to other people of plenty, you don't feel like you have more because everyone around you either has as much or more than you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of where the land of plenty problem comes from, and getting around that problem involves being outside the land of plenty and going somewhere else, doing acts of service in communities that you normally wouldn't go to. So you get outside that kind of bubble in the land of plenty.
Yeah. Kevin, you got an opinion on that? Why is it so hard?
The service part that you just mentioned, Christian, is really kind of it's the backbone of that thankfulness. It just, when you're that thankful, you help other people out. It's part of your DNA, and it just provides you with more things to be thankful for.
Yeah, I think that. And in particular, I know the organization you're involved with Honey Dudes, is a great example of this. It's I think the people that are drawn to that and want to help with that are people that they're looking for a way to give thanks. They're really looking for that opportunity.
And so being thankful leads to that gratitude. And the big difference between thankful and gratitude is thankful can be in words. Gratitude is in deeds.
Yeah.
And so if we're just thankful in words, we're missing what I think is the richer half of that equation.
Yep. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So at the top, I actually mentioned marketing and advertising and kind of what we're bombarded with. Do you think that these things are the antithesis of being thankful, or just capitalism at work, or whatever? Buddy, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I would think what you just said is right. They maybe are the antithesis of thankfulness. It's a very much, hey, what can you do for me now type of situation, quote, in the world and of the world. And, as far as being thankful for what we've been blessed with, that's not in the world or of the world, either one. So I do think our economic structure lends to some of that.
Yeah. There's a phrase that's used a lot in advertising that just grates on me every time I hear it, and it's whatever it is,
buy one, get one free.
No, I like those, but no, this is like, get the whatever that you deserve, right? So it's like, get the new truck that you deserve, or get the, whatever it is that they're pitching, and when that phrase just, well, what have I done to deserve a new truck? I mean, I haven't figured that out yet and stuff. So, Christian, have you got anything that bugs you in kind of the advertising world, or the?
Oh, that's a good one. I think, I don't know if there's a particular type of ad like that annoys me, but something I've seen more recently is my son will watch a TV show, and he's 6, and he comes back and he asks for what he saw during the commercials.
Oh yeah.
And so even though I've kind of gotten to the point in life where I can completely block out commercials, I ignore them, I do something productive during that time. Hearing it come back from my 6-year-old and starting to see how the world of advertisement can reach someone as small as him, I think that concerns me more than anything that's marketed at me is like, you're going for my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, it's a toy, but now you're teaching him that he should desire things that either he didn't know about until 30 seconds ago.
Well, he deserves that toy.
He deserves that toy. His friends on the show have that toy.
See, now you're getting close to home because our producer here, Mr. Tuggle, is kind of in that world of, marketing and, so it's I think you might have touched a nerve. If we suddenly go dark here, you'll know what happens. So, Kevin.
Yeah, just a little bit more on that. You deserve it. It's even worse when it's compounded with get it today and you don't have to worry about paying for it until tomorrow. And it's setting up a whole generation of kids to get in debt, and that is not healthy.
Yeah. Oh, man. We could go hours on that one. So.
Well, and to follow up on Kevin's thoughts and Christian's thoughts, it's that sort of marketing is filling a hole, right? Yeah. I deserve that. Well, you probably don't, but it's attracting people to fill a hole that they've got, right? This new truck will make me feel better, maybe for a day.
Well, it is truck month, too.
Absolutely. Well, see, there you go, truck month.
And it seems like every other month is truck month. I haven't figured that one out yet, It seems like they should only get one. So Christian, if you ever traveled anywhere where people, don't seem to have much, but they seem to be very happy, and have you ever experienced that in your travels? Or
there was a time I went to Spain. I think it was 2008. So I would have been, 2012. So I would have been 17. And I went to the capital city, Madrid, and I got to hang out with a whole group of folks from the church over there. And a whole bunch of our brothers from the Philippines were also in Madrid.
Wow.
And for them, a lot of them, it was the first time ever leaving the Philippines. And the joy they had just sitting around having dinner at 8 o'clock, relaxing, and just chatting about life. I think that experience was incredibly unique, and everyone was just happy just to be around other people in that sense.
Relative, yeah.
Christian, did you just say in 2012 when I was 17?
Yes, sir. That means I was born in 1995.
And you just yes-sirred me. Okay, all right. Just checking in, making sure my math is good.
Bonner's over here checking his pulse. He's going to make it through the podcast.
Just sending my art paperwork.
Oh, I love it. So, Kevin, have you ever seen thankfulness as relative? And here's why I say that. I'm going to throw a couple of statistics, if I could say it. So where you live in Texas, and average family income is $120,000 a year in Texas. Right, we're a relatively wealthy state. Worldwide, the United States leads the planet in disposable income at more than $51,000 a year. And then back to Texas. We're one of just 6 states in the United States with no income tax. Yay. So let me ask again, is thankfulness relative, or is it really a bigger question? Or, how do you see that?
I don't think money is the deciding factor on thankfulness. There are people that are extremely thankful that are living in the poverty socioeconomic bracket. Sure. I think what Buddy was talking about, that hole that, that pickup truck will fill in my heart, people try it with drugs, with alcohols, with gambling, with women, with, fill in the blank, okay, some vice. And when you start to serve other people because you're so thankful that you have to fulfill and become gratified that you are helping other people, it's amazing how that hole in your heart seems to kind of disappear.
Yeah.
And so I gear it more towards your journey in your relationship with God as opposed to what's my income.
So that relativity thing that really doesn't matter. I mean,
there's people in poor countries that are very generous. You look at Sister Teresa. Mm-hmm. She left a very wealthy family. And in her own diaries, she questioned whether she did enough.
Right.
That to me just kind of sums it all up.
Yeah,
it's not the money.
It's interesting. One of the organizations that I work with, or I'm on the board with, is Liberty Ministry, where we work with folks that are homeless or recently homeless, maybe recently housed. In that entire community, there's a huge community there, that is a community. These people look out for each other. They care about each other. The people that serve them or help them also are part of that community. They care for them and serve, and is part of that service. And it's interesting. They're incredibly generous. That's what gets me. If somebody gets something, somebody's homeless, gets a windfall of some sort, the first thing they do is share it with all their friends. I mean, they're that kind of, that thankfulness to me is very telling, and it's says a lot for human nature to me. So what's the connection between Christianity and thankfulness? Christian, I'll bounce that one off of you.
Well, I think at the most basic level, as Christians, we have everything to be grateful for. Jesus came, died, rose so that our sins were forgiven, and we have eternal life. And the gift of salvation is something that no material amount of wealth could ever come close to matching. And so just from that starting point, we could have $0 to our name, nothing but the shirts on our back, and we should be thankful because of that gift right there. And so I think with that as a starting point, we end where Kevin says, where we should just be outpouring of gratitude wherever we go, regardless of what we have to give.
That's a great insight, and that's a great way to kind of get past that whole truck month crap. It's the only way I can put it. That's excellent. So, Kevin, what do you think? Is that tie between Christianity and thankfulness? Is that spoken to you?
I listened to Daniel describing other religions here recently, and it was amazing. He said, Gandhi said, "I'd probably be a Christian if it wasn't for all those Christians." Okay. But the thing is, Daniel's point was, don't you think Gandhi lived like Christ? And so, if you're living like Christ, what did Christ do while he was here on earth? He did everything in his powers for everybody around him.
Right.
To the lowest person, to calling out the highest people.
Yeah.
But it was really, that is how he served. He led his life serving others and giving us a whole bunch of grace.
Luckily for us, for sure. So, buddy, I've got a great question for you. So, do you feel any connection between thankfulness and generosity?
Yeah, absolutely. What we have is on loan to us, I believe. Yeah. And so we're called to be generous. We're called to give and help support causes and other people. And we do that as a family. We don't do enough, right?
Yeah.
On the scale of what we've been blessed with. But absolutely, there's a correlation there and a connection there for sure.
Yeah, Kevin, have you seen that connection, that generosity and thankfulness?
I have.
You've been on the end of it, I know, with Honey Dudes.
I have definitely seen the correlation between generosity and thankfulness. It's hard to be a miser and hold so tight and be a giving person. We're called to be good stewards of what God has given us, and we're not taking it with us. We talked about being here on earth. We're just passing through. I'm not of this world. I'm literally just cutting through. And so I think there is some connection there.
Yeah, that's great.
Can I say one more thing about that?
Sure.
I think a lot about living your life through a growth mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset. And, really Christianity lends itself to that, right? People that have a clenched fist aren't sharing. They're not giving, but people that have an open hand and are looking at how can I benefit others, how can I share and be a good steward, as Kevin mentioned, absolutely are. And Christianity, that's a part of that.
Yeah. And I think that's a learned deal. So I want Christian's perspective on this, because I just know in my own life, when I, grew up, didn't grow up in any kind of rich circumstance or anything. So I was kind of taught the wrong way. We don't talk about money. We didn't talk about money in our house. Whether we had it or didn't, we didn't have much, but we didn't talk about it. And you're kind of ingrained into that. When I went through college and I got my first job, and all I knew is that I was going to have to work hard and earn money and get with it. And so generosity wasn't high on my list. So it really, or thankfulness from that standpoint. I'm at the beginning of the ramp here, so I'm thinking I got a lot ahead of me. So Christian, you're closer to the beginning of the ramp than the old guys on this other side of the table. So I got to ask you, do you feel that? Is thankfulness and gratitude, does that come into play, or are you still like, man, I got kids to feed, I got to get out there? So.
Kids do eat a lot. And man, I don't know how many gallons of milk I go through in my house. Absolutely, there's a connection between thankfulness and generosity. And it's kind of the same connection we were talking about earlier, thankfulness and gratitude. You can be thankful, but then turning around and doing acts of service, having gratitude. One of the ways of expressing gratitude is through generosity and blessing others with what you've been blessed. And so, to me, generosity is one of the things you can build a habit. It's not just a one-time thing, and the more you do it, the easier it is. I was blessed. My parents made me tithe as part of my allowance when I was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
So my $5 allowance, I lost. I lost. I 50 cents went in the tithe
cheerful
bowl every.
Giver right there. Very cheerful.
I was a very cheerful 8-year-old.
Yeah.
But it's something that you as an 8-year-old, you're like, okay, whatever, this is what it is. But you just do it.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, it's
still
still
doing
something
it.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's a habit. So I think you can build generosity into a habit that way as well.
Yeah. We did a similar exercise with our guys. So we had mason jars. So when the allowance came out, there was a certain amount went to the church, right? A certain amount went to taxes, okay, and then we had there were some for spending and some for savings.
That is brutal.
Yeah. So the kids kept saying, okay, we understand the church deal because we bring the money to church and everything, and we understand the savings. They understood. What's this taxes thing?
Did you let them shelter any of it, Dave?
We didn't get too deep there. But here's what we did with the taxes, and this was brilliant. I think this is Doris's. This wasn't me. So they were Taekwondo kids. They did Taekwondo. We went to a national tournament down in Florida. So we took the tax money and we used it to buy tickets to Disney World, because that was taxes are for the greater good, which was the family. So that's where that money went, and they were like, whoa. So next year, if we raise the taxes, can we go to? So that's the last time I've heard them talk about raising taxes. But anyway, so I'm going to move on here a little bit. Of course, the Bible has some wonderful perspective on this. So in Matthew 6, verse 19 through 21, Jesus is pretty clear about this. And he says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So how does this frame thankfulness for you, Kevin?
Well, it goes right back to we jokingly call it, nope, I'm saved. I'm just working on the crowns. And so there's a lot of people that will not understand what I just said. You need to look it up, because once you get that perspective down, it really changes the way when I got it down, it really changed the way that I looked at the world. That's when I decided to be a good steward. That was one of the most impactful sermons that I had ever heard. And getting to the punchline, you get to heaven, you have a certain amount of crowns. If you've done some certain things, you get to lay them at Jesus' feet.
Right.
And I look forward to that day.
Excellent. Christian, does that verse familiar, and does it strike you? Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
That's right to me. I think we have three basic needs. We have, as humans, we have a desire to be in relationship with God, we have a desire to be in relationship with others, and we have just the material desires we need. And they're all important. You can't live life if you have no food, if you have no shelter, you have no water.
Right.
But it's the least need. It's the least important. Yeah. And so once those basic things are met, there really isn't much more you can gain from it. When there's so much more to get gained from having a great relationship with the people around you, your family, and then obviously the most important relationship with the Heavenly Father. And so that verse kind of touches straight on that kind of three desires that I think about. And Jesus directly saying what matters is you store up in heaven. What matters is your relationship with the Father and me.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I would agree with that.
That's a great aspect. Buddy, have you got an insight into this?
Yeah, well, first off, it's a very convicting verse, right?
Yeah.
And it really makes you think about how you live your life, because in Western society, don't we have to take care of ourselves? And if you think about that long range, that means, well, I've got to pile up a pile so that I can manage to live after I'm productive, right? That's what society tells us. Well, I would tell you, I fall into that sometimes, and there's a good book on it's called Jesus and Money. It's by a guy named Ben Witherington. I would highly recommend it. But I have an example right now that lives about 3/4 of a mile behind me, my 82-year-old mother. Not a wealthy woman by any means, but somehow she's managed to stitch it together where everything's fine.
Yeah.
And I don't think she thought about accumulating anything her entire life, but somehow that's where she finds herself.
Yep.
If you're not worried about accumulating things, who might you depend on? Right? So I'm glad this was in our discussion tonight.
Yeah,
So.
that's perfect. So, Kevin, I got a question for you, just because you're Kevin. What's some of the best ways that you or someone has demonstrated thankfulness? What stands out to you?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the honey dudes thing because that's where I kind of hang my hat. But there's times where honey dudes presents the opportunity to really influence some people and change some people's lives. And I've got 100 of stories, but one of them affected my son so much that I was kneeling down and praying with a lady because she was upset. Her daughter was moving out after the divorce had finalized, and she was kind of a little bit crying. And I took her, I kneeled down in front of her. She was sitting down, and I took her hand and I said a prayer with her. Well, I didn't know, but my son took a picture of it.
Whoa.
My son went home and shared it with my wife, and my wife proceeded a day or two later to go, I want you to see the effect you're having on your children. And when we seed a church with the honey dudes, that's the photo that I pull up and tell the story. Yeah. Because it doesn't just affect me serving somebody else. It doesn't just affect the person that's being served. When you are thankful enough to be in the process of showing your gratitude by serving others, there's people all around that are seeing that.
Yeah.
And that's what's been powerful for me.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Wow. So the last question, I'll start with Christian, and feel free to have 2 or 3 answers to this if you like. But what are the things that you're most thankful for?
Oh, obviously 1, 2, and 3 are my 3 kids, and then their mother
despite the milk input,
despite the milk, despite the crying and the lack of sleep, those 3 and my wife are just the most precious things to me, and I can't imagine life without them. I grew up one of 7, so always wanted a family of my own, and then just being blessed with 3 healthy kids, and God blessed us with the ability to raise them here in Flower Mound, and just cannot be more thankful.
Oh, that's awesome. Tremendous. Buddy, how about you?
Yeah, I'll mimic Christian and say family for sure, right? And Christian, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm a little bit older than you, and so health takes on a bigger piece of your consideration. But then also, lastly, contentment. I'm thankful for that because that brings a sense of peace and really stability. We're so fortunate that I just want to constantly remind myself to appreciate that and be content in the station we've been blessed with.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, Mr. Cummings, bring it home.
Grace of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
My incredible family that are just so loving, and being born in the United States,
yes,
especially in Texas.
Yeah. Well, which technically is part of the United States, but
especially in Texas.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. Well, guys, I can't thank you enough. This has been I'm thankful for this group of guys, but it's it's something this month to look back on this kind of stuff. So I can't thank you enough for joining me. Really like this conversation and appreciate you guys taking the time to be here. So there you have it, episode 23 of Men in Progress. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and that you'll join us again in December for a very special end-of-the-year podcast when our guests from throughout the year tell us about their favorite Christmas traditions. It'll be a fun discussion that you don't want to miss. Thanks again to Buddy Bonner, Christian Sweeney, and Kevin Cummings for joining me and sharing their wisdom with our listeners. Thank you for listening to Men in Progress from Trietsch Memorial UMC in Flower Mound, Texas. I'm Dave Casey, and we'll see you next time.
This episode of the Men in Progress podcast is sponsored by Trietsch Memorial United Methodist Church, where our mission is to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. If you're in or near Flower Mound, Texas on any Sunday morning, we would love to welcome you to any of the Trietsch services. Or you can follow our services anytime on our Facebook page or at tmumc.org.